Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, we explore different areas of leathercraft, and today we're going to be looking at the leather layers of the natural hide. And we're going to understand a few different things. The first is what these layers actually are and how it relates to our crafting decisions day to day. Two, we're going to look at a few different examples of the actual layer cuts. And three, we're going to understand how these relate to leather quality. Because often crafters will refer to full grain, top grain, suede, genuine as leather quality, when actually it's very different. These layer cuts will have different characteristics to them that may make them, better fitting for one project or another, but they alone will not define the quality of the leather itself. So it's a really cool thing that we'll take a look at today, and we'll dive right in. So the first area we've got is the section of natural leather. And we'll see it's made up of primarily three different layers. On the top, we have the grain layer. That's the outermost, densest fibers. As we're moving down, we've got the grain and corium junction. And the fibers begin to open up a little bit. Then we've got the corium below that. The fibers are generally going to be a little larger and a little more open. We also have the flesh layer that is often removed during the tanning process. So for most leather that you're working with for crafting, that flesh layer will not be there. So we've got the grain and corium junction, and then the corium layer below that. And let's dive into an example of full grain leather. Here's a piece of vegetable tan full grain leather. And when we take a closer look at that, we can begin to see on the surface texture, it's still very much there. And that's essentially where the hair used to grow, is where these little marks are. And in full grain, all of that is left. The hair is removed during tanning, and you still retain all of that original surface texture that was present in the hide. Looking in our section, we still have a pretty thick grain area, and that opens up a little more, into the fibers of the corium and the corium junction. A benefit of grain leather is that it retains a lot of durability and strength since that outer grain layer has been maintained. And so that makes it one of the strongest leathers and most durable leathers because of that. Next, we look at top grain, and an example of that, and we could see a few different things already in it. In this example, taking a closer look, that surface layer is very consistent. That's because in some top grain leathers, that surface is sanded down. And that gives you an even look and feel, which can be great for some projects, whereas a full grain leather, will have some variations which may not be preferred in some cases. That said, we also have a nice grain layer in this, and we can start to see the layers open up a little more and below, but essentially we're retaining a lot of that original grain layer, making it also a very durable type of leather as well. Moving on down, we have suede, and that is going to look like this. And if we move our finger on it, you can start to see the color change. And that is because suede has longer fibers to it. It's cut primarily from this corium area here, and so they're going to be more open fiber pattern. Even when we take a closer look at that, we could see already even here, there's a lot more texture in the top surface, of suede. And even on our closer look, we could see the fibers, very clearly in the section view as well. And they're going to be a lot more open, a lot thicker in this suede, simply because it comes from this corium junction right here, which is the more open pattern within the hide. And that's also what gives suede its softness and its texture, simply because they're, the tanning process keeps those fibers intact, and it's coming only from this section here. And so that makes it a pretty interesting and fun leather type in suede. Next, we've got genuine leather. So genuine leather simply refers to anything that is a natural leather. There's no inherent quality definition tied to genuine. It's just literally that it is leather. We'll see it in marketing terms sometimes, but that's not fully accurate. It's just that it is leather. Full grain leather can be genuine, top grain, suede. So all different variations in there. So it's good to keep that in mind. We also have something called a split leather, and we'll take a quick look at this. Is a split suede, and similar to the suede we just looked at, it's got a looser fiber pattern, and split leather essentially can be split from any one of these overall layers in the hide. Often what happens is, to make the most use of leather, as we get down towards the bottom of the corium, leather gets a little less desirable, a little less usable, and so they'll split it and then coat it. That could be a plastic coating, a protective coating. Like for example, here is a patent leather, and that, if we take a closer look at that, we could see down here is genuine leather, and on top is the coating that makes it the patent leather. And so they've essentially split this corium layer and then applied a coating to it, which is great because then you could take leather that may not otherwise be too usable and still make it useful. You could also split leather from any part of the hide, so you could have a very high quality split leather or low quality as well. So again, this does not determine quality in and of itself, just being a split leather. Lastly, we have a bonded leather, and this is essentially an example of leather that we've taken a bunch of different, basically the fibers are ground up and then mixed together with glues and adhesives, and to make a new material that is composed of leather fibers but isn't natural necessarily in its construction process. And that can be okay too, because for some things a bonded leather can be great for linings or interiors or structural elements. And we see here it's a pretty consistent look and feel, and also a very different pattern in the section, simply because it is not a natural grain pattern. It is their fiber pattern. It's essentially mixed, packed, and then formed, so you could see a more uniform, denser pattern in that. That is the overview. And so depending on what you're trying to make, it will vary on terms of what layer of the cut that you want. If you're looking to make something, for example, a fine handbag or accessory, you may be looking for more full grain or top grain. If you're looking to make something that's softer and more flexible, you may be looking for a suede, or even if you want a plastic patterned textured top, you may look for a split that's covered with a certain pattern. So it really will vary based on what you're trying to do, but essentially the biggest things are that genuine leather refers to pretty much all leather, and it in of itself is not a definition of quality. Any of these are not definitions of quality on their own. It's simply that they each have unique characteristics that may or may not fit for what you need, and then part of the quality is determined by the tanning process and other factors as well. So you can have different qualities of each of these layers, while each of these layers will have very specific characteristics. And yeah, so knowing this, you'll be able to make more informed decisions for your crafting process, what you're trying to make, and what type of leather you'll look for when you're making it. So if you have any questions, let us know. I will put a link to this guide sheet in the description below. Feel free to download that if it's helpful. You could print it out. And yeah, until next time, keep crafting.